Hey, what up, everybody? It's Chris Roscoe. Welcome to today's episode of What the Fuck is Going On with My Hair. And today we're talking about friend breakups. I made a post on my Facebook page the other day of asking what topic I should cover in my video today. And the thing that I got back is talking about friend breakups and how to help somebody who's currently going through one. Because what was brought up was that we don't necessarily talk a whole lot about friend breakups. We don't culturally seem to even acknowledge them as a thing and how much they suck. And they do fucking suck, especially in this time nowadays where people seem to be dropping friendships left and right for either political reasons or because there's just like really bad life advice going around on the internet because everybody has a platform. And so all of these like really vapid, like toxic motherfuckers can just like give advice and people think it sounds good. Like if you can't accept me at my worst, then you can't get me at my best. Like that's awful advice because you might be terrible at your worst and that might be your problem, not anybody else's. And so I feel like it's easier than ever to drop friendships, and at the same time we don't talk about that. The culturally acceptable thing that I see people talk about more often than not is, you know, just like, oh, I don't got time for that toxic crap. I don't have time for like I just move on because I got my self-respect and my self-love and my blah, 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 blah. But anybody who knows anything about people in 2018 is that nobody's actually that well put together. Nobody's actually that cold and calculated and on top of their shit to where they can just move past a thing and be totally fine with it. Like most of us don't function that way. If a friendship ends, especially a friendship that lasted for a long time and that meant anything to us, that can be fucking devastating. That can really, really hurt. It can be just as painful as losing a long-term, like committed romantic relationship. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We get like, I don't know, man, like some friendships that I've had mean so much to me because these are people that have been there through multiple romantic relationships. And these are people that have helped me through multiple romantic relationships. And they've helped me figure out who I am. And they've been there for me through a long period of time. And we've shared adventures and all kinds of cool shit. And like, so those relationships end up meaning a lot. And I think a large part of it is that we just don't generally value them as much as we really should, even though we talk about valuing them and we post on Facebook as if we value them, but then we don't necessarily behave as though we do. But anyways, or if we do, we don't know it. And next thing you know, the thing's gone. And you're like, fuck, there's this giant like friend-sized hole in my life and I need to figure out how to fill it. So what do you actually do when these things end? You know, the first thing to do, I would say, is just be nice to yourself. Whether or not it was your fault or whether or not someone else did some fucked up shit that brought this relationship to an end, be nice to yourself. If it was your fault, forgive yourself. Accept yourself for whatever it is you think you did wrong. Accept whatever impact it's made on you or the world around you, and try to learn from your mistakes, and because that's always good. But just be fucking nice to yourself. And especially if you were the recipient of any kind of mental or hopefully not, but physical abuse or anything like that, still be nice to yourself. Whatever it is you think you did to contribute to the thing, acknowledge it. Sure, great. But forgive yourself and move on and be nice to yourself. No matter what, always be nice to yourself. That should pretty much always be the top thing, because no matter what you're dealing with, if you're being nice to yourself and taking good care of yourself, that's going to get you a leg up in being able to handle it in a way that's going to make your life better than it was before. So with that being said, also a part of being nice to yourself is acknowledging that it's totally okay to feel however you feel. Like if you're fucking heartbroken, like you would be from, you know, like a divorce or something like that, it's okay. It's okay that you feel that way. There's nothing wrong with you. It's good. And if it takes you a while to get over it, then it's okay. It means that you really cared. And it means that there was this depth of relating and this depth of someone else's presence in your life that they were removed from that. And there's a hole in your life. And it's okay to acknowledge that hole. And it's okay for it to be there. And it's okay to care about someone so much that not having them in your life anymore hurts. That doesn't make you weak. That doesn't make you bad. That doesn't mean you failed at the like being the super badass that all these memes and shit say you should be. Like that's not what this is. Like you are a human being with feelings and shit, and it's okay. because there's this whole process that comes along with this stuff. Like, depending on how it ends, you could end up rethinking the entire relationship. You could be questioning yourself. You could be thinking about, like, what did I do wrong? How could I have done things differently? You could be blaming yourself. There's like all these different avenues of experience that could be happening through that. And if you take your time and take a look at who you were in that relationship and who you could have been and who you would have wanted to be and what your reasons were for not being that person. Because there's different layers, right? There's the shit the other person did wrong, and then there's the shit that you did wrong, and then there's the shit you know you did wrong. And the shit you know you did wrong, even if you're not the reason the relationship ended, even if it's like someone else's fault, the stuff you know you did wrong could still eat you alive. That could still happen. And so it's good to forgive yourself, and it's good to be nice to yourself and all these different things, and just have room for your experience. Because, you know, like I said, these relationships can get really, really deep, and they can be really, really meaningful. And it's okay that they end, you know? Like, the memes aren't wrong. Like, if somebody leaves your life and you do the work to integrate whatever lessons there were, and you do the work to fill the hole in your own heart that that person left behind, then yeah, you can expect something better. You can expect to be more aligned with your values. You can expect to be more aligned with your truth. You can expect to be more aligned with your values and also have a lot less patience for shit that doesn't fit your values, and be able to recognize it much sooner, because like all the warning signs in the beginning that weren't there, and suddenly you see these new things develop and you're like, aha, I know where that's going to go. So let me just, cut that out in the middle or in the beginning, which is incredibly valuable to do. So ultimately these things are really, really good, right? Breakups in general are good. Any kind of death is good, viewed from the proper perspective, because death is renewal. In a very real sense, not in like a metaphysical, spiritual kind of like Eastern philosophy kind of way, but in a very real, grounded way. Like forests, they burn to the ground so they can be reborn. The circle of fucking life. Like, I'm going to go into the ground one day and I'm going to be worm food, and then that worm food is going to be other things. So death is life. It's really cool if you can embrace it. And if you can own where you were wrong in the thing, and figure out why you acted out of alignment with who you really are, then you're going to grow as a person. And if you figure out where the other person was wrong and how you maybe let that slide, taking responsibility for all of it, and how maybe you let somebody get away with some shit that maybe they shouldn't have, then you're going to grow in that way as well. And so, there's so much to learn. There's so much you can potentially get out of something like this, even if it went horribly wrong, and even if it's all your fault. You can still learn so much from this if you're willing to take the time. But even then, taking the time only matters if you're nice to yourself, because you're only going to be able to actually get the wisdom out of this if you're being gentle enough on yourself to actually listen and take it all in without just, mentally and emotionally just beating the shit out of yourself. So kindness is absolutely top priority, even and especially if it's your fault. So be nice, because it's important. But again, this is being said because you're going to have a huge range of experience, and just because you're going to learn from the thing, and just because it's going to be better, like whatever your experience is fine. It's good. It's healthy. And if you follow it to its natural conclusion, then you're going to be okay. Now, with that said, it's going to suck, because if you're hurting, you're hurting. And the only way out of hurting is to hurt. Like no amount of platitudes, no amount of nice things I could say in this video is going to take the pain away. The only thing I can do is put the pain in context. The only thing I can do is make the pain seem worthwhile, because it is. It absolutely is. And you have to know that. Going into whatever painful or traumatic experience you may experience now or throughout the rest of your life, the important thing to know is that that suffering and that pain, put in the right context, makes all the difference. So I feel for you. I'm sorry if you're someone who's dealing with this and you're hurting. I know what that's like. I've lost friends recently, but like I said earlier, like we're living in this age where like people just unfriend a motherfucker that they've known for a long time just because of a political disagreement. And this shit happens all the time. It happened to me 2 days ago. I lost a friend that I'd known since 7th grade, whose little sister was my first kiss ever, over this Colin Kaepernick shit with Nike. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, a guy signs a deal with Nike and makes a commercial, and I lost a friend I've known for damn near 20 years. Like, what the fuck is that all about? But that's the world we live in. And so, you know, these things may end up happening a little bit more frequently than we intended. And so the thing I would recommend living in that current culture is know your values. Know what matters to you. Know what's worth fighting for. Know what's worth losing people for. Because at the end of the day, like, if you sacrifice your own integrity to keep a friend, not only is that probably not a super strong friendship, but you're actually going to end up resenting that person because that person is like the reason you sold out. And selling out our morals and our integrity just inherently doesn't vibe with us. It just makes us feel crappy. Like, anytime you do something that acts outside of your values and your alignment, you can probably tell, right? And if there were to be something that would keep you up at night or anything like that, it would probably be you acting outside of your values. So don't do that for any friendship, because that friendship will have an expiration date on it anyway, one that you won't be aware of, and it'll probably end in weird, unexpected ways, and you won't be happy about who you are in the meantime. So in this world of unfriending and political polarity and just poor social skills and social media and isolation and depression and anxiety and all the mental and emotional and interpersonal shit that we're dealing with, like, friendship's oddly fragile these days. But at the same time, like, if you stick to your values and you find other people that share the same values as you, a lot of times you can have friendships that are stronger than pretty much anything else. Like, one of my best friends in the whole world is this guy named Tarek. One of my favorite people in the whole world. I get more mad at him than I've pretty much ever gotten mad at anyone else, that any other friend that I've had. He pisses me off more than anybody that I know. It's because I love him. And it's because he disagrees with me on some things. But no matter how mad I get at him, no matter how many times we fight, we still have each other's backs. And it's because essentially we share the same values, even though we go about expressing them and exploring them a little bit differently. So it's not necessarily that having people that agree with you, but the idea is you can have really strong, lasting friendships that can withstand a lot. And so it's just because the world's complicated right now, and just because it looks like people aren't doing so well, it doesn't mean that good friendships don't still exist. It doesn't mean that you can't have really cool experiences. So, you know, I hope to God this was a positive experience for you. I feel like this could have been a downer or positive, depending on how you look at it. So hopefully this came out positive. But ultimately what I want to say is that, like, yeah, friendships are hard. We live in a tough time. Social media, political polarization, poor communication skills, isolation, depression, anxiety, all these different things make a factor in the interpersonal landscape being fairly difficult to navigate these days. And so if shit doesn't work out, just try and make sure that it didn't work out for the right reasons. Like, if I lose friends because I was honest and straight up and true to myself, then I feel good about that. But if I lose friends because I misrepresented myself and I was a dickhead unnecessarily, I don't feel so good about that. So, and it's going to happen. Like, you got to know that, especially with me as I'm like a professional loudmouth. Like, people are going to not like what I have to say. I've lost friends because of shit that I say, but I'm not going to stop saying it. And so again, you know, just see what's worth it. Feeling redundant. So I'm going to shut up now. I love you and I hope this helps. See you later.